Alright, so let's go over a brief overview of the zoo that I'm using. I went back to smaller zoo. I was using a big zoo for a little while, but it just wasn't working out. Like, I just had an awful matchup with Escape Shift, which happens when you do Naya and it's uninteractive and then you go bigger. So I had to switch out. But something that really impressed me was a Johnny Vengeance, or Vargin. That guy was doing really well. He was giving me a better matchup against red deck wins. He was really good against Delver and Control and Junk. So I've been impressed with him, and I'm keeping him. He does get cut often, but regardless of that, he mostly sticks around. I have a weird sideboard here. It is definitely constructed oddly, but you'll see when I play certain games, it's mostly meant to take out the biggest matchups in the metagame right now. So some of this stuff plays double duty. For example, Choke obviously plays against pretty much anything that plays blue gets choked. But things like Aven Mind Sensor would come in against, this would be very good against Escape Shift, but then against Pod I'm using Hushwing Grift and Aven Mind Sensor to sort of do something against them, plus the Stony Silence. But then against what do you call it, the twin decks, I'm also using Choke and Hushwing Griff. So again, it's like they're not great at just one matchup, but they're very strong in maybe two matchups, which is my main reason for using it. I had an Active Aggression up here, as well as another Refraction Trap, which was great. Refraction Trap was perfect. But it wasn't, it was very, very good for what I wanted, but red deck wins has gone down a lot in the metagame. And as such, Refraction Trap has become a little bit less important. I was using Refraction Trap to sort of deal with a lot of these red-blue decks, as well as the what do you call it decks, the red deck wins decks. And it looks like we're going to get started right away anyways. But that's the overview of the deck. Mostly it's just to be very good in a few different matchups. But we'll see if that ends up working out. I cut the Volcanic Fallouts out of my main just because there's a lot more pod existing, so I wanted to have more paths in my main. They're still there, and I've still got enough like main deck hate against the Delver decks that I should be fine regardless. And I feel like I've got a lot to side in against them as well. Alright, so we're opening up a hand that's not really that strong. It's got removal, it's got 4 lands, and a Luxon's Miner. It can get there eventually, but I'd like a more aggressive hand on at least my opening play, so I'm going to mulligan this. We open one with a Noctel. It's got a Gore-Clan Rampager as removal plus Path to Exile, so this is keepable. I mean, we can get blown out by a Bolt, don't get me wrong, but we've got a pretty good chance to draw into some meat. My hope is not to play against the Glitter Storm deck, although it doesn't even use Glittering Wish anymore. But I have got 2 sideboard cards in against that, as well as the Chokes. So I've got 3 Chokes and 2. They don't go off right away, so Choke's actually relatively good there. I think they run 2 lands-ish that doesn't get hit by Choke. So like, if they randomly luck sack into those lands, there's really nothing I can do. And we're playing against a Delver deck. Okay. So, Gore-Clan's not that great against Delver, but Ajani is pretty good against Delver. Question is here, I'd rather put down the Temple Garden so that way I can have a tapped land and Path to Exile if I want to. It still gives us access to the green portion of Gore-Clan if I need to do something else, as well as does not thin my deck down so I can get the Ajani. So I think the Temple Garden is probably the correct play for right now. If I draw into a Bolt, I'll feel sad. Normally I like to go for a turn 1 Stomping Ground with this version of the deck. Turn 1 Stomping Ground, turn 2 turn to, what do you call it? Sacred Foundry. Alright, so we're happy he didn't flip his Delver. He's going to go ahead and scry. He's going to scry me a river. Well, it's interesting that he went for a basic land on his turn 1 play. This means he's either not 2. Well, now he knows that we got the Gore Clan as well as the Ajani. Nothing I can really do about that. And we do have the path for any of his stuff. There's no reason to path the Delver right now. But this would mean that if he's going to bolt us, he'll do it this turn. And we do need to see the graveyards for this matchup. So the second Ajani is something interesting that we got here. He missed his land drop, which is huge. We are definitely not going to path him. And it's not like he's going to have anything else to do here, so there's no reason for me to Gore Clan Rampager. So we'll go on an attack here. Yeah, he was desperately looking for that land drop. We'll see if he's got it. So no land drop yet. Again, I'm not going to path him until I see a land drop here. And even then, him being stuck on 2 lands is not the worst in the world for me. Alright, we can clearly outrace him now. So the question is, do we want a Gore Clan now? I think we probably don't. I think we'd rather have the mana open so we can just start playing Gore Clans. He's not going to be able to deal with them. He doesn't have the amount of be able to burn them out. So I think it's better if we just go for the race, because even if we go for the race, he drops me down to 11. I'm still going to win this race. I'm thinking, I mean, once we put down the Ajani, I can just keep his land tapped, or his insect tapped. If I get a land drop next turn, I will attack first if he leaves this guy up to block, and I'll let it trade, and then I'll put down the Ajani and keep his land tapped. If he taps his land, for instance. No, he's going for the race here, which is fine. So we got a bolt here, which is great. If he taps this down so that he can go and shoot my Noctel down, that does mean that I'm able to bolt out his insect very quickly and very easily here. This basically means that we're at parity. The difference is he's got a little bit more cards in hands. If I draw a land at any point in time, probably should have pathed my own dude here to get the last land, but I figured it might have been a waste. I'd rather have this path so that I can use it as removal. Especially if I can threaten him with, like, Gore Clans. So yeah, he's going to be going to do some cruising to go get himself some stuff. But I'm not really sure what he can do with 1 land. He could probably play something, right? And if it's a draw spell, then it's not really going to do anything. If he ends up going for red, he's going to need to get blue as well for that in order to bolt me, so it's not really doing much other than lowering my life total and keeping us at parity. So he must be like a Tarmogoyf version of this Delver deck. Yeah, so he's just going to Fork Bolt me, which actually doesn't leave us at parity. It actually puts me at a lower life, but it leaves him closer to death. We're going to crack this. We're going to want red for this, so we're going to get Sacred Foundry here. I am leaving myself open to the double bolt, which is a thing, but I think I'm going to put out the Ajani here rather than anything else out. And my reasoning is then I can Helix rather than tap down his stuff. He's going to go to kill the Ajani, which is fine because I've got a second Ajani. And the second Ajani I can also maybe protect with Path. Luckily, Forked Bolt cannot name me. He can only name the Ajani here. So it's Ajani's dead. But then another 3. If I draw a Bolt, he's dead. If I draw a land, I mean, he's not dead. He's very likely to be dead. Sure, Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf gets Path. That's not a big deal. And I think what we do here is we bolt the face and we path the Tarmogoyf. That seems to be the best use of our mana. And then next turn we can put out the Ajani. There's no way he can have counter spells. But yeah, let's do this. I don't want to give him a chance to be able to counter it, so we're going to do it main phase. We'll leave the red open so we say that we have a bolt, even though it doesn't. We don't actually have a bolt, and I think he's 100% sure that we don't have a bolt. But this puts us out of burn range. He might think we have like a path, which would be useful. But he's gonna have to play something to stabilize, or he doesn't. You know, he can just let the turn fly by, which is fine by me. Because then I can put down Gore Clan, and if he doesn't do anything about it, it still opens up the way for me to eventually bolt and kill him. The other option is I could bolt. I mean, he could have a Cryptic Command, though, and I don't want to play into the Cryptic Command, although it does scrape off his Ajani. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and play the Gore Clan Rampager. Again, the reason is he's going to have to deal with it, or he's dead. We've got him down. That's why I pressured him last turn. Is there's no way that he can't not deal with this stuff. Sure, deprive. Eventually, he's not going to have a counter. But he's not going to be able to stabilize if he has to be reactive and not let himself die, for example. So we know this can't get countered, and it also lets me bolt his face if he tries to do anything. So we know that this doesn't die to a counterspell. This has to die to burn. And he knows he can't burn this now. So with our life total being at 6, we're not going to go end of turn bolt. But this does allow us to now attack and rampage over. And if he does something about it, we can bolt him in response. So he can do a double bolt, but I think that's highly unlikely that he's got it, so I'm just going to go and end this. He could have a counter spell. He does have a counter spell. Okay. So we'll see if he's got a burn spell to finish me off then when he attacks with that Tarmogoyf. I think I could have won if I didn't put on auto yield like I did. I was trying to get out of it because I think I could have bolted him at end of turn and that would have been it. Yeah, oh sorry, the Vapor Snag did it, right. Stupid maths. That's fine. I very much doubt we're going to lose next game with all that we bring in here. So normally I take out the Ajani. The Ajani is good, but as you can see, it gets stranded very easily in that situation. And the Gore Clan also doesn't necessarily work that well, so we take out the Gore Clans. We also take out the Pride Mage, but then if I have to choose what's left here, I have changed it a little bit because I did have a third Refraction Trap, and that was how I was sideboarding. I think I'd keep the Ajani. I very much doubt that we're going to be able to lose after sideboarding all that in. It's just we have so much hate for the deck, plus the main deck is very, very good against Delver. And I think I could have won that last game. I just, every time I hit yield till end of turn, it bites me in the ass. So that's my own fault. So of course we're going to play first. We're not going to keep a hand that doesn't have any like form of mana. We're forced to keep this hand, although I really don't like it, in the hopes that we get green. Because if we go too low against this deck, we'll just lose because we'll lose. And we're already one behind, so we're forced to keep. I'm going to play red here rather than white, because if I draw a land next turn, I'd like to have access to red if I need to. So again, we don't have that, but we can bolt the Delver at least. An attack for 1, which is pitiful. But it might lead him to be floating around a little bit. Sure, he can see that we've got a ton of removal and nothing to do with it. He might be having to dig through his deck to find a answer now, or to find some form of threat, which he does not have. Or he could play Tarmogoyf and we're screwed. So there's the Tarmogoyf, like I expected. There's a Stomping Ground, which is good news for me. If he decides to block, I will do the trade here. We're just basically going to go in race mode. We're hoping we're eventually going to get a land in hand. So that way we can put the Luxodon Smiter out here. We know he's got a counterspell. He wouldn't play it unless he had the counterspell to back it up. So we're just full on race mode here. Here's the Luxodon Smiter. Move on. So he's got a Crataxian Probe. He plays with life for that. We're back at full race here. He leaves it open to block. That means he's got, like, I know he's got removal. or I should say burn that he's trying to back up with the Luxon Smiter. If he goes to Racefill, I'm okay with that, because then that means I'm sure Luxon Smiter is going to outrace this insect. Plus we got the Lightning Helix in hand. The sad thing is he's got a full grip of hand. We mulliganed once, then we missed on a land drop once. So we had to sacrifice the Curd Ape. We would have been in, if we had like a second land drop in, 2 extra damage, and he would have been much closer to being dead. He's searching around for something he can do. The tap land's going to generally indicate that he doesn't have the, he doesn't have something he can do with it to back up his aggression. He might attack here, but I think he's probably going to keep it up to try blocking to kill the Luxon Smiter with. At worst, he trades with me here, because I'm going to go ahead and do the Lightning Helix main phase before I attack. We have Tarmogoyf to replace it. It's an interesting quandary to be in. If he decides to bolt my Smiter while blocking it, I can then play Tarmogoyf, and that puts me in a better spot anyways. So I think that's what we're going to end up doing, is we're just going to go straight into attacks. We just straight up, yeah, okay, so that's fine too. I don't mind that trade necessarily. And this does make it so that when we put out a Tarmogoyf, we could be very far ahead at this point. I mean, he can remand it. Oh, he's going to flash freeze it, huh? That's fine too. It still leaves us with a 4/4 on the board that he obviously can't deal with. He can go ahead and cruise, which would be the best card that he would use right now in order to find an answer. If he doesn't have cruise, he's going to go ahead and use things like Serum Visions to search for an answer. Overall, we're not in the worst spot imaginable. We have him down to a virtual 4, which means that next swing is, in fact, death for him. If he doesn't have a way to back it up, he can chump block, but chump blocking doesn't get him further ahead. In fact, it makes him further behind in tempo, or it just at least stalls. Well, no, it makes it further behind in tempo, because he uses a card. I mean, he knew that we had Lightning Helix here. He's searching for an answer to deal with the Luxon Smiter. Path is an interesting card here. It's not going to do anything major aside from him putting out maybe like a Tarmogoyf eventually. If I get in here, I'm not going to waste my yeah, like I said, I'm not going to waste the Helix beforehand. Choke is a good card here. Depending on what he does, we can really hurt him here. Let's see what he's going to be snapping before I decide if I want to bolt that thing. Vapor Snag, huh? Okay. I'm going to let him play that Vapor Snag. It'll at least tap down 2 of his lands. And I'm not going to play the Luxon Smiter. I'm actually going to play the Choke here. Because it'll limit what he can do with his hand. Curd Ape, huh? So we'll replay the Luxon Smiter. We have a blocker. If he decides to go for attack, I'm not going to block. I'm just going to go ahead and... like I thought. Okay, Refraction Trap here is great because I can bounce any of his burn spells that he's got to his face. So the interesting thing here is I'm not going to Helix next turn. I can leave Helix open, I can leave Path open, I can leave Refraction Trap open. Overall, I still can play the Curd Ape. So he's gonna Vapor Snag, huh? That seems fine. So we're gonna win just because he doesn't have a counter spell. If he didn't do anything, I'd go ahead and Lightning Helix his face and kill him. I could block the Snapcaster all day and not have to worry about it, because if he tried to burn the Snapcaster, I would just then go and Refraction Trap it back to his face. So that worked out well. And he didn't see the Refraction Trap, which is good. He only saw the choke. He's going to be fetching accordingly to that choke plan. However, I'm going to leave the choke in. Sometimes I take the choke out. I don't know why it's... My sideboard got pulled back in here. But that's fine. Whatever. As I was saying, I'm going to leave the choke in here, and my reasoning is pretty simple. Sometimes I pull out the choke after I've already had them shown it, so that way, because I know they'll play around the choke, they'll grab a lot of red sources, they'll grab a lot of green sources, whatever, but this time I'm going to hold it back in because his mana base is awful, and the fact that he has to get for blue, if he doesn't get for blue, he's screwing himself, so the mere presence of choke makes him... He's going to go conservatively. He's going to go like a red, he's going to get like a blue, he's going to get like a green. He's not going to get both those colors, but his mana base really is just skewed towards green only to splash Tarmogoyf. So if he chooses to go not get the green instead, he won't be able to cast Tarmogoyf, which is going to be the biggest problem for this deck. So that solves it. And if he decides to go for more red heavy, to go more burn heavy, then I've got Refraction Trap for it. If he decides to go for more blue heavy, like basic blue heavy, which still falls into the choke plan, that's fine. I mean, he's very much, obviously, with those Vapor Snags, we can see that he's less of a burn Delver deck and more of a blue Delver deck, which is perfect for me. I haven't even seen like a young Pyromancer from this guy, so choke still does its job here. So we were able to fight back from a position where we mulled and missed a land drop, and even didn't do that much damage in the early game. I'm going to keep this, reason being I've got a turn 1 Loom Lion. If he tries to bolt it, I've got the Refraction Trap to bounce it. Luxodon Smiter, as you guys saw, was a headache for that kind of deck. He mulled, and in the end of the day, we've got the Volcanic Fallout to deal with pretty much everything, so this is a very keepable hand. Plus, he mulled, which is perfect for me. I'd like to see him mull again. Mull 4 times if he wants to, that's fine with me. Although, I guess I don't like to see it. Whenever that happens to me, I always feel bad. But he's really thinking about that mull. Which might be good, might be bad. Might be like, well, it's a very good hand if I draw a land. And then he draws the land and everything's perfectly fine. In which case it would have been better to hope that he won't. But he decided to keep. We'll see how it goes. So it's a turn 1 Delver, huh? No, we draw a Trope too. The only way I consider losing is if that guy goes aggressive. If that guy goes aggressive, then the Refraction Trap and a Fallout will do its job. I mean, it's got a flip too. But I still have a Bolt to bolt it next turn. But I could go Loom Lion and then have Refraction Trap mana open as well as Bolt mana. I'm considering bolting at turn 1. Just because of the aggression, but I don't think he's going to have enough gas to follow through. Especially with our Refraction Trap and Volcanic Fallout. This is basically saying turn 2, turn 3, we have ways to deal with this Delver. So I think the best bet is to go, this is then saying we need to go to a Temple Garden in turn 1, 2. Which I don't like, because what if I draw a basic, you know, and then I gotta do a Fallout. Decisions. I think the more I think about it, the more I realize I need to bolt this thing turn 1. Yeah, I think that's the decision I'm gonna have to come to. Just to keep it parity. I've got a better late game. There's no way he's gonna be able to deal with a Luxodon Smiter. And the choke plan becomes super live now. I'm gonna go ahead and take the damage for this, so that way I have Refraction Trap if he decides to do something next turn. And I've got to get a Stomping Ground. I guess I don't need to do Refraction Trap now that I don't have the mana for it. So, I mean, I can pretend that I do. That's not really going to make a difference. If he goes ahead and burns away my Loom Line, that's fine. It opens me up for a turn 3 choke. But I guess he decided to keep, yeah, 1 lander, and it hasn't paid off for him. Although we missed the land last game, and it still managed to. We managed to come back. And we don't have like manipulation like their deck does. So there's the lands. Let's see if he bolts it on his turn, or if he bolts it on our turn. Looks like he's gonna go attack here. Well, he attacks, that would be stupid on his end. Because we can block. I don't think he's going to be able to gut... Well, he can gut shot it then. But then he would lose lands and he would lose stuff. If he gut shotted... No, his Monastery Swift Spear would survive. I think I want to swing with the Loom Line. And if he decides to gut shot again, I don't really care. Now I could path, but I know that he's in a land crunch because he missed a land last turn. So I think I'd just rather go Loom Line here. And if he kills one of my Loom Lines and I missed a Refraction Trap, that's so be it. But I still end up having a Loom Line, so I can still pressure his life total. And this would mean a Forked Bolt is not good enough. You need to actually... Sure, Gradaxian Probe. Alright, now he knows what our game plan is. Once we get to 3 land, we can basically kill him. He's looking for his land drop is primarily the reason. But then this also means that he's going to need to leave open Counterspell mana. So, like, bolting idea is not necessarily the greatest idea in the world. And if he leaves Counterspell stuff open, I'm still open for a Volcanic Fallout. Basically, this entire hand says, like, if this was white, it would be a little bit better. But this entire hand mostly says that, like, I've got hate on you. And if he does nothing, because he's just going to keep open a Counterspell thing, then I can just keep swinging and deal more damage then. Sure. He's really putting his life out there. This means obviously I'm not going to block here. But if he doesn't hit that land drop, you know, he swings for 3. Got down to 13. He's going to cruise here. He's going to do, yeah, more damage. So he's probably going to get a land drop. I can't see him not getting a land drop. Yeah, obviously he missed a land drop with all those things if he tapped down the extra. If he had a fetch land, he would just fetch land and then did it. And that would have gave him 2 untapped sources of mana he can use. This guy can hit for 4. I'm fine with that. I can path him next turn anyways. At this point, there's nothing that we're going to do here, so I'm just going to go ahead and yield plunge turn. I mean, if he doesn't have a lands, we're still pretty golden here. He's pretty going balls to the wall aggro right now rather than tempo. So he can swing with that, that's fine. He missed his land drop. I, again, don't really want to give it to him. So I'm going to straight up attack. And it should give me the game very soon. I mean, I guess he felt like he had to attack since he pumped that Monastery Swift Sphere so high. But it really has left him open for me just to do parity to him again. And yep, that's it. So again, if I drew, let's draw some cards. Choke, Goyf. So I was not going to draw a land anytime soon. If I eventually drew a land, I could have maybe done it. Been able to do the Choke or the Luxodon Spider. The mere fact that having this and saying if I draw a land at any point in time, I have millions of hate cards that I can use against you, it's probably what led him to concede. I think he still could have played me a little bit more. But at any point in time, if he tried to burn my Loom Line away, obviously I just leave it open, and I would be able to Refraction Trap it back onto him and then basically win the game. So, I mean, he was not able to do it. No, with the 2 mana that he had to, and he used all his free spells, there's no way that he eventually is going to need to leave this back to chump block, and then I was going to be able to kill him off of it. Even with the But, I mean, if he drew a Tarmogoyf at any point in time and played it, then I would have to stay backwards. I guess he was so afraid of that choke. Literally, he looked into my hand, and I think that was basically, it was it for him. Again, that's one of the things, is he didn't have another blue, because he fetched for a basic, maybe to conserve life total. But I don't think he was being conservative with his life total if he had to go ahead and, like, you know, use free spells constantly and take away life for that. Just by the mere presence of choke made him do it. So that was pretty good.